Welcome to today's Explainer. We are diving into a truly fascinating topic right now, decoding the fake rich playbook. We're going to analyze 10 crystal clear signs, straight from our source material, that totally separate the mere illusion of wealth from genuine, actual wealth building. You know, it's so incredibly easy to get caught up in appearances these days, but real wealth, that's all about what you build behind the scenes, not what you show off to the world.
Seriously, think about this for a second. Have you ever met someone whose lifestyle absolutely screams wealth, but their bank account tells a very, very different story? Go ahead and picture that specific person in your life right now. We all know someone who fits this description perfectly. Maybe they drive a super flashy car, or they always have the latest designer bag, but deep down, you kind of suspect the math behind their lifestyle just doesn't add up. Keep that person in mind as we really dig into how this whole illusion is maintained.
So, here is our roadmap for today's Explainer. 1. The material flex. 2. The social projection. 3. The financial facade. And 4. Real wealth whispers. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The material flex. Buying status over substance.
Okay, so the illusion of wealth almost always starts with physical stuff, right? The first major red flag is what our source calls the base model trap. This happens when someone totally stretches their finances just to buy the cheapest entry-level designer good, like say a basic logo belt or the absolute bare-bones luxury car. They just desperately want to be associated with that brand name. For example, they'll go out and finance a stripped-down entry-level BMW or Audi, but meanwhile they could have easily bought a fully loaded, much more comfortable Toyota or Honda for pretty much the exact same price. When someone chooses a flashy, stripped-down luxury badge over actual comfort and utility, yeah, that is a massive indicator that they're chasing status way before they can actually afford it.
Let's look at the actual math behind this madness, because it's pretty wild. A person pretending to be rich might spend 20 to 30% of their entire income just trying to look wealthy. But on the flip side, someone with actual genuine wealth might spend maybe 2 to 5%, or honestly even less, on those kinds of flashy purchases. It's totally backward. The truly wealthy buy status symbols after they're solidly established, not as their very first big purchase just to fake it and hope the real wealth somehow magically follows.
To really grasp how damaging this is, let's talk about the classic 50-30-20 budgeting rule. That's 50% for your needs, 30% for your wants, and 20% for savings. Imagine you're making $10,000 a month. Your entire 30% discretionary slice for all your fun money is exactly $3,000. So if you go out and buy a $5,000 Gucci bag, you've literally destroyed your budget for the entire month, and then some. It is especially alarming if that bag costs more than what you actually have sitting in your $2,000 emergency savings account. That's not a flex, guys. That's just a financial disaster waiting to happen.
And then, wow, there is the absolute extreme end of the material flex: counterfeit luxury. Buying knockoff bags with bad stitching and slightly off fake logos is somehow even worse than overspending on the real thing. When you buy a fake, you are quite literally just buying an illusion. You aren't getting the brand's true status, and you certainly aren't getting that high-quality craftsmanship. It's the literal definition of pretending to be something you're completely not.
Moving right along to Section 2, the social projection. Insecurity disguised as confidence.
So, this material insecurity, it quickly bleeds into how people act socially. The first big behavioral sign is the unprompted flex. Look, people who are actually secure with their wealth do not need to constantly remind you about it. But those projecting an illusion, they will steer literally any conversation back to money, their income, or their investments, just because they are starved for external validation. Our source highlights a hilarious example of this. You could literally be talking about pizza toppings, which, for the record, black olives are great, and out of nowhere, this person will chime in like, "Oh yeah, I used to eat those when I wasn't making that much money, but now I don't eat black olives anymore." What? It's totally unprompted and just screams deep insecurity.
Building off that vibe, we usually see two very specific personality types. First up is the constant one-upper. This person absolutely has to turn every single conversation into a competition. You mention a nice little weekend trip, oh well, they just have to mention their business class flight to the south of France. You get a nice new watch, they'll start bragging about how the second-hand sweeps on their Rolex. Then, on the other hand, you have the condescending critic. This is the person who makes unsolicited, snarky comments about your financial wins just to rationalize their own mistakes. If you are succeeding, they feel genuinely threatened by it. Both of these incredibly toxic behaviors stem directly from deep financial insecurity and a perceived threat to their fake social status.
And no surprise here, this entire charade finds its perfect home on social media.
Think about it. If somebody's money is actually real, they don't need to constantly document it for a bunch of strangers online. But on the internet, a highly produced video of someone blowing $1,000 at the mall is always going to get vastly more views than a sensible video about putting $1,000 into an emergency fund. Real wealth building is slow. It's boring. It's not glitzy. The fake rich capitalize on this by creating a totally curated highlight reel. Some even go as far as buying fake bot followers and likes just to signal a level of social status that literally does not exist in the real world.
Let's peel back another layer. Section 3, the financial facade, the shaky math under the flex.
Let's actually look under the hood at the deeply flawed financial mechanics that prop up this whole lifestyle. A huge trap here is a simple yet massive misunderstanding of business math. The number you need to remember is 10%. Our source points out that people online, especially dropshippers, will frequently brag about making $500,000 or even $1 million in a year. But here is the catch. They are confusing gross revenue with net profit. Often their actual take-home net profit is less than 10% of that big revenue number. So they're out there flexing a $500,000 income when they're actually netting maybe $50K. Now, $50K is a decent living, sure, but it is certainly not the baller flex they're pretending it is.
And this misunderstanding of wealth leads right into the obsession with these get-rich, slightly fast schemes. We see things like Forex trading, drop shipping, NFTs, crypto day trading, MLMs, options trading, infinite banking, the list goes on. The fake rich are constantly chasing these trends, always talking in the future tense about some massive deal that's just about to close. But what's the reality? 99% of people fail and actually lose money at these activities. Because true wealth is built slowly and boringly over multiple decades. It rarely comes from trying to miraculously turn $5,000 into $1 million in a single year.
All right, let's talk about perhaps the absolute biggest financial facade of all, the luxury car lease. Let's just break down the math on this for a second. When you lease a car, the dealer sets what's called a residual value, basically what they think the car will be worth at the end of your term. You are paying the difference between the purchase price and that residual value. So let's say the car is $50,000 and the residual is $30,000. You are strictly financing $20,000 of pure steep depreciation plus all the interest, which they sneakily call the money factor, and fees. And at the end of it all, you give the keys back and you own absolutely nothing. Unless you have a legitimate business tax write-off, leasing a car just to squeeze a luxury badge into your monthly budget is literally one of the most expensive ways to own a vehicle.
Which brings us to our final section today. Section 4, Real Wealth Whispers, Confidence Without the Billboard.
In stark contrast to all that loud, frantic insecurity we just talked about, the final sign of the fake rich is that they just completely overdo it. They act like a rich character they saw in a movie once. They wear this overpowering cologne from the department store. They totally over-accessorize, making sure that every single item they're wearing functions as a walking billboard broadcasting a luxury brand name. Constantly bragging about future deals and dressing to scream wealth, it honestly just demonstrates deep-seated insecurity, not actual real-world success.
And this brings us to a quote from our source that brilliantly illustrates our core thesis today. It totally nails it. Real wealth whispers. It won't scream at you. The wealthiest people out there, they often dress pretty normally and super modestly. Sure, they might own one or two genuinely nice items, but they absolutely do not need to be walking billboards. They have quiet confidence. They do not need a single ounce of external validation from internet strangers to feel secure in their financial position.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this one provocative question to chew on. Are your financial habits designed to genuinely build wealth or just to maintain the illusion of it? It's a huge, powerful distinction to reflect on. Thank you so much for joining me today and learning how to look past the facade. Take these lessons, start making authentic financial choices, and go build some real quiet wealth. See you next time.